So while I've been traveling, I've had plenty of time to think. And that's one of the things I love about traveling is you get plenty of spare time. You get these gaps in big journeys, whether you're driving or flying or something, where you get the opportunity to ponder things. And I tend to do a lot of reading and other stuff as well. I've also visited some interesting people while I've been away as well. But one of the areas that I've been interested in exploring with trading for some time is the psychology of trading. And it was interesting when I put on my blog, what are people interested in? Because everybody wanted strategies, blah, blah, blah. And the interest in the psychology of trading was actually quite small. And yet that's actually one of the pieces that I think is really important, because I can show somebody exactly what's to do and they still won't bloody do it. And it's fascinated me for some time about that, because I sort of started from the same base. I think it's very easy to forget that I had to start from a low base. And I think people just, assume somehow that you're either good at something or not, especially when it comes to trading. But the fact is that when I started in short-term trading in financial markets, and I was absolutely hopeless. I couldn't get it to work. And yet, I used to be a bit scornful of people that did get it to work. But I slowly began to realize that there were a range of errors that I was making, and they were mainly psychological. So I actually learned to undo all of that problem that I had and stitch myself back into a different mode. So I find trading quite straightforward now. So, I know what I need to do, I know how to execute it. And I think generally how I would summarize what's going on is that I can see through noise. And what tends to happen in the market is the market will push you around a lot. And if you're using money, then the pressure that is heaped on your shoulders, it tends to lead you into making pretty bad mistakes. So I've learned to undo that. But one of the problems I think that occurs is teaching other people to undo that. So you can teach them a method that works, but people will still be unable to do it. And so I've been exploring for the last few years methods and processes that allow me to understand why that is the case, in the hope that I can come up with a simple method that allows people to overcome those barriers. And that's one of the things I've been doing on this trip, is visiting people, discussing with eminent psychologists and trading professionals, and also, reading up on a variety of things. The two books I've been reading while I've been away are the Behavioral Guide to Finance, or something like that. I forget the exact title. And I think it's The Little Book of Behavioral Finance. I think that's the title. And I've also been reading The Chimp Paradox by Steve Peters as well. And it's interesting because both of them are exploring similar subjects in terms of how you can adapt your behavior to cope with psychological issues, although the Chimp Paradox is more a general thing. So it could be to do with personal problems, not trading problems, that are why you want to read that book. But to paraphrase it and not to do it justice, basically he's saying that you have an emotional part to your mind and a very logical part. The emotional part is much stronger than the logical part, and it overrides that part all of the time. So it's the ability to control that emotional area. And he frames it and puts it into metaphors to allow you to do that. But it was very interesting to read that through, and also on the Little Book of Behavioral Finance, or I think that's what it's called. I should have checked before I did this video. It talks and gives examples across a range of markets. But it's interesting because, the reason that I say to people, don't give up, keep going, is because I've been through that, and I went through that a long time ago. And failing at the short-term trading on financials made me think that it wasn't possible, and I was wrong. It is possible, and there are people that do it successfully. And then when I started trading on Betfair, suddenly it all made sense, and I came up with ways to describe the market in its smallest terms and in the largest terms, why prices do things, and going through all of those details and getting a completely detailed understanding of how the market works allowed me to perfect that. But the fascinating thing for me was that even if I handed that to people and said, here you go, this is what you need to do and this is how you do it and why, the inability of people to do that. But I had to go through the stage of having to overcome that. And I think if you had to summarize it in one sort of word, I'd say it was fear. I'd say that fear is the driver behind people making lots of mistakes, and people can turn perfectly good trades into really bad ones. And if you think about it logically, even if you were a complete idiot trader, then you would win 50% of the time and lose 50% of the time. Overall, you'd probably be net negative because you'd have to pay a commission to the exchange you're using. But essentially, there is no massive reason why you should perform worse than that, and yet people do consistently. So that was fascinating and interesting to see, and that tells you that there is a problem there that people need to overcome. And having overcome it, I sort of know what to tell people and what they should do, but they still find it very hard to execute. So my quest now is not to understand the markets, because I understand those in wonderful detail, but it's to try and find methods and processes that allow people to overcome this psychological fear. And perhaps some exercises or something I can come up with given time that will allow people to practice and put themselves in a position where they're less fearful of trading. But anyway, that's a couple of things I've been doing. And I'm going to record a couple of other videos as well to give you some metaphors or analogies that may guide you in terms of what you expect you'll need to do, or the way you'll need to look at things to be able to overcome some of that fear. But yeah, very interesting stuff.